Welcome to RetroQuest, the show that gives me an excuse to revisit games from yesteryear on retro consoles with original hardware just how they were intended. I'm Jay, and today we're playing Viewtiful Joe on the Nintendo Gamecube, which was originally released in 2003, the same year that Arnold Schwarzenegger became the Governator, following his election as Governor of California. And today I'm going to be playing with the Nintendo Wavebird, an awesome wireless controller from back in the day. It probably doesn't look a lot now, but when it was released it set the standard for wireless controllers, and it's still incredibly popular and sought after to this day. Anyway, let's not waste any more time. It's time to boot up Viewtiful Joe. If you've never heard of this game, then let me get you up to speed. Viewtiful Joe is a side-scrolling beat-em-up developed by Team Viewtiful for the Gamecube. It was originally released in 2003 as part of the Capcom 5 under director, now apologies in advance for terrible pronunciations, Hideki Kamiya, and producer Atsushi Inaba. The game was later ported to the PlayStation 2 by the same design team under the name Clover Studio. The game's story concerns Joe, an avid moviegoer whose girlfriend Sylvia is kidnapped during a film starring Joe's favourite superhero, Captain Blue. Joe is thrust into Movieland, where Sylvia is taken by the villainous group known as Jado, and after accepting a special V-Watch from Captain Blue, Joe transforms into Viewtiful Joe and sets out to rescue her. Viewtiful Joe's core gameplay is similar to traditional side-scrolling beat-em-ups. Taking control of Joe, you're mostly limited to moving left, right, up and down on a fixed 2D path, and the game contains platforming elements such as the ability to jump and double jump, and combat consists of fighting multiple enemies on screen at once, with enemies appearing from all directions, including the foreground and the background. Joe has the ability to punch, kick and dodge, which you can do by leaping upwards or ducking. Dodging enemy attacks successfully temporarily dazes them, leaving them wide open for attack. You have a certain number of hit points in the form of life marks, located above the VFX gauge, which decrease whenever Joe takes damage, and your health can be restored by picking up hamburgers. Viewtiful Joe features unique gameplay elements in the form of Joe's Viewtiful Effects, or his VFX power, which is designed to emulate camera tricks seen in films. The VFX power is used in both battling enemies and solving various puzzles, and these three powers are limited by the VFX gauge. Giving the player access to Joe's superpowers via his Viewtiful Joe transformation, the first VFX power is Slow, which slows time, causing the player's attacks to be more powerful, increasing Joe's reflexes, allowing him to dodge attacks more easily, similar to the bullet time we saw in The Matrix. The second VFX power, Max Speed, allows Joe to move at faster speed, creating multiple after images of him when he unleashes a flurry of attacks on all enemies on the screen. It can additionally cause his attacks to envelop Joe in a temporary heat shield, rendering him immune to flame attacks and setting enemies on fire when struck. The last VFX power, Zoom In, causes a camera close-up of Joe, powering up his normal attacks, granting him a set of new attacks and paralysing all lesser foes in proximity to him. However, any damage dealt to Joe while zoomed in is increased to 2. Any two VFX powers can be combined, and the VFX gauge can be extended by collecting a certain number of V-films present in each stage. Defeating enemies earns you V-points in the form of small and large coins, while using special attacks gives you V-marks or Viewtifuls, which can be converted into V-points. Viewtifuls can be quickly gained by using combos or long chains for attacks. For example, while using Slow, striking a dazed enemy sets up all other enemies on the screen for a chain reaction, causing all points accrued during the duration of Slow to be multiplied by the number of enemies struck. Each stage in Viewtiful Joe consists of several interconnected missions or scenes that you must complete in order to advance. When completing the stage, you're graded on the number of V-points earned, the amount of time taken, and how much damage Joe took. V-points can be used between stages to purchase new abilities, expendable weapons, which include the Boomerang and shocking pink bombs, as well as health related items. Clearing the game on various difficulties allows you to play as different characters such as Sylvia, Captain Blue and Alastor, with the PlayStation 2 version also allowing players to play as Devil May Cry's Dante. Viewtiful Joe is divided into 7 episodes. The setting is divided between Earth and Movieland, the game's fictional world of films. The plot begins in a movie theatre on Earth, in which the game's central character Joe and his girlfriend Sylvia are watching a tokusatsu drama, starring the aged superhero Captain Blue. The movie's antagonist, having seemingly defeated Captain Blue, suddenly reaches out of the screen and abducts Sylvia, taking her into Movieland. Joe is likewise picked up and taken into Movieland by Captain Blue's giant mecha, and inside the movie, Joe must now rescue Sylvia from the evil Jado, the game's organisation of villains. To help him, Captain Blue entrusts him with a V-Watch, a device Joe can use to transform into superhero upon saying the word Henshin, transform. Joe promptly does so, inventing his own catchphrase, Henshin a go-go baby, which you'll hear countless times throughout the game. With the guidance of Captain Blue, Joe fights his way through a number of Movieland's locations, such as cities, caves and underwater bases, and a submarine, often travelling via his trusty robot aircraft, Six Majin. One by one, Joe defeats the members of the Jado, the game's bosses. Before fighting Alastor, he reveals that in order for the Jado to break out of Movieland and into the land of humans, they need the DNA of the creator, namely Sylvia. Now, spoiler alert here for those who haven't had the experience of this game yet, or finished it, or plan to. Finding Sylvia atop the control room of a space station, Joe discovers that Captain Blue has been behind the plot the entire time. The former hero reveals that he is the creator of the film in which they currently exist, and that he is Sylvia's seemingly deceased father. Transforming into the colossal robot King Blue, Captain Blue proclaims that he will take Sylvia's energy by force in order to break into the real world. Joe tells him off, telling him that he's no hero. Joe then summons Six Majin and the two engage in combat. When the fight ends, Captain Blue and Viewtiful Joe abandon their respective vehicles and face off in a final battle within the space station. Viewtiful Joe was developed by the design team Team Viewtiful, a part of the Capcom Production Studio 4. The game was announced in late 2002 as part of the Capcom 5, a lineup of 5 then upcoming GameCube games to introduce new content to the console. It was directed by Hideki Kamiya, whose previous credits include the planning of Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2, and the direction of Devil May Cry. It was also produced by Atsushi Inaba, who previously worked on the Ace Attorney series and Steel Battalion. In its earliest stages of development, Viewtiful Joe went under the working title Red Hot Man, but the name was changed due to copyright conflicts with the American rock band Red Hot Chili Peppers. Viewtiful Joe's development team initially consisted of 6 people working under a 12-month deadline. As work continued, the size of the team grew, and development ended up taking a full 21 months to complete. The game was conceived as a staff-focused project, aimed at increasing the skills of its creators, specifically director Kamiya. Inaba stated, "We wanted to create a challenging game with stunning visuals and fluid gameplay." As a lifelong fan of superheroes, Inaba's aim was to combine traditional Japanese tokusatsu with American comic books. The character designs were inspired specifically by 1960s and 1970s Japanese costume television shows, such as Kamen Rider and Ultraman. Graphically, the game adopted a 2D side-scrolling style, mixed with 3D cel-shaded animation. Despite many games in the then modern industry shying away from 2D graphical formats, Inaba said, "We've been able to breathe new life into the genre because we're using a new stylistic way that hasn't been seen before." The team chose the GameCube as its platform because of their target audience and because it lent itself well to Viewtiful Joe's gameplay. A budget re-release of the game for the GameCube, titled Viewtiful Joe Revival, was released in Japan in late 2003, adding a Sweet mode to decrease the difficulty setting from the original mode's Kids mode. The PlayStation 2 port of Viewtiful Joe was released by Clover Studio in 2004. It was released in Japan with the subtitle A New Hope. And as we said before, this release added Dante as an unlockable character. The PlayStation 2 version doesn't feature progressive scan, which was seen in the GameCube version. The game was also re-released under Nintendo's GameCube Player's Choice label in 2004 in North America and Europe, and it's said that director Kamiya based Joe's run animation on how he got to work, and the bosses of the game, worryingly, are based on Capcom executives. In a 2017 interview with Dengeki PlayStation, he expressed interest in remaking the game. Viewtiful Joe received critical acclaim upon its release. Metacritic lists the GameCube and PlayStation 2 versions of the game at 93 out of 100 and 90 out of 100 respectively. The game's graphics, gameplay and challenge were all common areas of praise among many reviewers. IGN gave Viewtiful Joe an outstanding rating, noting that the beautiful, cel-shaded graphics and high-intensity action make it one of the best action games on the GameCube and PlayStation 2. Likewise, Eurogamer called it imaginative, beautiful, engaging and above all else entertaining. Game Informer praised it as a completely original and highly entertaining work of art. In Japan, the GameCube version of Viewtiful Joe sold through its initial shipment of less than 100,000 copies within the week of its release. Pre-orders of the GameCube version sold out on Capcom's North American website prior to its ship date, and Viewtiful Joe debuted as the 10th best-selling game in the region. Unfortunately, the PlayStation 2 version sold a poor 9,912 units in its first week of release in Japan, with worldwide sales of the game reaching 275,000 copies on the GameCube and just 46,000 on the PlayStation 2. Sales of the game in both North America and Europe were smaller than predicted by Capcom, but due to its small budget, the game was considered by Inaba to be a relatively successful commercial release. Viewtiful Joe garnered a number of awards and nominations from various magazines, popular gaming websites and video game award programs. IGN named Viewtiful Joe GameCube Game of the Year and Best Action Game of 2003. At GameSpot's Best of 2003, the game was nominated for Best Artistic Achievement in a Game, Coolest New Character, Best GameCube Game, Reader's Choice Best GameCube Action Game, and Reader's Choice GameCube Game of the Year. It was also named the 4th Best GameCube Game of 2003 by GameSpy. Viewtiful Joe actually won Most Innovative Game Design in Nintendo Power Magazine's 2003 Players' Choice Awards, and it won GameCube Game of the Year Award for 2003 from both USA Today and GMR. The game was nominated by the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences for Console Platform Action Adventure Game of the Year in 2004, and was nominated for 3 BAFTA awards, including Best Design, Best Intro Animation, and Best GameCube Game. The game also won Unsung Hero of the Year at the 2003 Golden Joystick Awards, and Best New Franchise at the 2004 G4 Awards. And finally, it was recognised as the 4th annual Game Developers' Choice Awards. Viewtiful Joe was successful enough to establish a franchise, and a few other related media titles were released. Viewtiful Joe was followed by a direct sequel titled Viewtiful Joe 2, released for both the GameCube and PlayStation 2, and 2 spin-offs, Viewtiful Joe Red Hot Rumble for the PSP, and Viewtiful Joe Double Trouble for the Nintendo DS. An anime adaptation of the game was produced, airing on the Japanese television station TV Tokyo beginning in 2004 and being licensed for US distribution in 2005. A set of Viewtiful Joe trading figures was released in October 2005, while a series of action figures were released later in July 2006. In 2004, Capcom registered the domain name viewtifuljoe3.com, suggesting another sequel. However, sadly, shortly after the website was devoid of content. In January 2006, Atsushi Inaba expressed an interest in developing a title in the series. However, as none of Clover Studios' games proved to be an outstanding financial success, Capcom officially dissolved the subsidiary in March 2007 after the release of its final 2 games, Okami and God Hand. Its key members left to form a new company called Platinum Games. Capcom producer Jun Takuchi commented at the 2009 San Diego Comic-Con that there had been currently no plans to continue with the series. Although Viewtiful Joe has appeared as a playable character in Capcom's 2008 Wii fighting game Tatsunoko vs Capcom Ultimate All-Stars, and is a playable character in Ultimate Marvel vs Capcom 3 for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. In 2012, Platinum Games announced the development of the Wonderful 101, the project known as P100. This was the first project that reunited Kamiya and Inaba as a director and producer on a title since development of the Viewtiful Joe series. Furthermore, the Wonderful 101 uses the same thematics of the Viewtiful Joe series, and the two share a similar art style, albeit different gameplay. This has led fans to hail the Wonderful 101 as a spiritual successor of sorts. So there you go. That's Viewtiful Joe on the GameCube. I really love that game, really have fond memories of playing that back in the day, and it was really great to revisit it again as part of the show. Let me know down in the comments if you've played Viewtiful Joe before and if you have any memories of that game, and let me know about any games you'd like to see me play on RetroQuest in the future. Until the next video, thanks for watching.